Okay, our legs are still one inside the other. We just got done with that. So we're going to go ahead and take this inside leg and we're going to pull it out and voila! There we go. Okay, we have our jammy pants there. They're starting to take shape. All we have left to do now are two things. The casing and put our elastic in, and then we also need to hem them on the bottom. So we've come a long ways, baby. So what we're going to do now is we need to iron them for the casing, for the elastic to go through. And you need to make sure you will want to put, if there isn't water, look at the level here. Water really does help. If you have it on steam, that helps with the ironing. It's a lot easier that way. And you also should have it on cotton, especially if you're using flannel. Cotton is a good setting for it, okay? Because it is cotton. What we're going to do now is right here at the centers, where it comes together, we're going to open up this seam. Okay, so I'm just going to iron down, first of all, I'm going to iron down this seam just that far down. We don't need to go too far down. Okay, and we're going to turn it over, and we're also going to iron down. Here we're going to iron down. We can't iron down these because we've serged them. So you can't iron down these seams. But on the center part of it, we can iron down. That helps with the elastic when we put it through too, so that that's not in the way. So I'm going to iron this down. And remember, whatever you do, remember to turn your iron on. I have students who'll go, "It's not working, Mrs. Aston." That's because they haven't plugged the iron in. So you need to make sure you plug it in. Okay, for this step now, you're going to grab your seam gauge. And what I'm going to do first is, on this part, I don't measure it the 1/2 inch over. I just kind of eyeball it and I go, oh, yeah, that's about 1/2 inch. And so I take it and I'm going to iron it 1/2 inch. Do not do this. This is something that some students do. They'll take it, they'll just fold it straight over, sew it, and try and come to me or have their elastic in it, and they'll go, "Here, Mrs. Aston, I will make you totally unpick this, because guess what? You have a frayed edge. This can all come apart on you, so you have to make sure that you have that 1/2 inch of it sewn under first. So 1/2 inch first. Pay close attention to this. They hate it when they have to redo this part. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around. I'm just going to iron it as I go. About a 1/2 inch over. Look how nicely that's staying down with that steam that I have on the iron. Just a 1/2 inch. Okay. Alright, now when I get to this, right here at the seam, I don't want that folded over this way. I want it open, and so I'm going to fold it over on that seam. That helps keep it out of the way with the elastic. Otherwise you have problems with the elastic. So see how this is opened up? And this is folded over that 1/2 inch. We're going to continue around now, all the way around. Okay. All right. And on this, of course, it can go either way, because you can't open up that seam. So we'll just fold that over here. Okay. We'll fold that over, and we'll continue around. We're right here at the end of it now. Yay, we're there. Okay, now the next step is we're going to take this and we're going to fold it over 1 inch. Now if you have elastic that is not 3/4 inch, you're going to have to talk to me, because I'm going to have to help you. On the inch line, you're going to use this, your seam gauge, and you are going to make sure that this comes down from the top 1 inch, and you're going to iron that. Okay, so I'm going to iron this part right here. I know that this section right here is 1 inch. So I'm going to iron that down. And then I have this, so I'm going to take my pins and I'm going to pin this way up. That way you can pull them out this way. Okay, but you go right into it. I have students that'll pin it up here. Doesn't do any good if it's up here. It needs to be down here on your seam, so that it doesn't come apart and ruin your casing. You'll have to redo all that if you do. Okay, now I'm continuing around. Again, I want it on the inch line. So I'm taking this, and I'm going, okay, let's get my inch about right there. Notice how neat and even. Now be careful so you don't get it too big. Some people get it way too big, and then their elastic twists up in their pajama pants, and it doesn't look so good either. Okay, so I'm going to pin that, come around a little more, and make sure you do this step. Make sure, because if you don't, you run into problems. Okay, so the 1 inch, again 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this as I go around every 2 or 3 inches or so. Well, actually about 3 to 4 inches, every 3 to 4. Okay, and I have, like I said, I have to go all the way around. Make sure you do this correctly. You'll be sorry if you don't. Okay, so all the way around on this casing, we're going. And I like with this flannel how nicely it lays when you do that. It just lays right in place, so you just have to stick your pins in. Okay, so just continuing around on that inch line as we go. It's a little easier too after you've done it a little bit. A little easier to do it. Notice that it's not up and down and wavy. You need to look at that to make sure it's not. If you're having problems with that, come and get me so I can help you. You don't want to have to re-sew it because you didn't take the time or there's something wrong that you can't figure out. So make sure that you talk to me. Okay. All right, there we go. Little ways farther. Okay. Like I said. Oh, good. We're to our last leg. So I'm going to measure that, make sure it's at 1 inch, and it is. So I'm going to iron the rest of that down. Okay. And there we go. You're all done and ready to sew, and then put your waistband in. Forward. Okay, an important part of the last step that I forgot to mention is you need to make sure, follow me, my little helper, to the plug, so they make sure and see that. You need to unplug the iron. Don't want the school burning down. Some of you might like it to burn down, but I'd really rather not have that happen. Okay, let's go on and get ready to sew. Okay, for this part, to put our elastic in, we are going to start on the back. So notice my B here. That means we're going to start right here. We're going to leave this much open for our elastic to go through. So about 3 inches right back here we're going to leave open. That means I'm going to start sewing right here on this side of the seam. Okay, I'm going to put it under. I'm going to put it here under my sewing machine. Now this also is another worry spot, so make sure you're paying close attention to this. Come right in here, my little helper. I am going to put this presser foot down. Notice it is a little, it's over. I'm going to put it down, but the thing that I want you to notice is that it lines up with this inside of the foot. So as you go the whole way around, you're going to make sure that the inside of this presser foot lines up with this line. Do you see that? I'm just going to follow that line the whole way on the inside of this. Make sure you do that, or you'll run into trouble if you don't, because then your elastic won't go through if you start to sew too far over. Again and again. This is one of the biggest trouble spots is right here. Make sure you use the inside, just the inside of this foot, and go on that edge. Use that line to go around. Now, you don't have to backstitch right now because we'll come back and backstitch after we get our elastic in. But notice I'm keeping it right here on the inside of the line as I go. I'm not watching anything over here now. I'm just making sure that this lines up on the inside of this line. Okay, the whole way around. That's all I'm watching is that. Remember to pull your pins out and put it in your pin cushion as you go. Okay. I'm keeping it right on the inside. Pull this out as I go. Okay, right over that seam. You go right over it. Some people freak out. I don't know why they freak out right there at those seams and think they need to stop and not go over it. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going the whole way around. I'm going to stop again just to remind you. Make sure you're going just on the inside of the inside of this foot on that edge. Okay, so I'm going to continue around. You have to be careful here because this is where you can get buckles too. And that's another thing I look for on your braid when I'm checking it. Notice I'm kind of pulling it as I go so that it lays nicely. Okay, so I'm going right over this. That's my front. Notice I'm on the front now, so I've got to go back around to the back. All right, all the way around. Take that out. There we go. Okay. Around and around we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. I want you to look at this too. Notice that as I do this, it's hard to see that dark line, but I'm right there along this edge, right there on that edge, so that my elastic will fit just fine through this. Okay? So we're almost around to the back. Oh, there's my back seam, because it says back. So I know I'm going to end pretty soon so I can put my elastic in. Okay. And there I have my casing. Notice that I do have a little bit of space right here so that I can run my elastic through that. Okay, we'll go on to the next step now.